In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how I made this So Sorry card. The products used to make this card are from Stampin' Up! I'm going to start with my card bases in Certainly Celery cardstock, and it's a standard US standard 8.5 by 5.5 piece of Certainly Celery cardstock scored in half. The top piece is very vanilla, and it's 5 1/4 by 3 5/8. The stamp sets I used are from Border Banter, Secret Garden, and So Sorry stamp sets. And I'm going to start by stamping the leaves on this card. And it's okay if you stamp off. I'm going to use a sheet of scratch paper because I'm going to stamp slightly off of the cardstock. And I'm just going to stamp the leaves twice. Okay. The next step I'm going to take is I'm going to use Baja Breeze, and I'm going to stamp the chevron image, and it's a really subtle image on here that it kind of looks like chevrons. So I'm going to stamp that in Baja Breeze, but how I did it is I stamped off first to get some of the ink off, and then I stamped onto the paper, so it's a very light image. And then I'm going to stamp one more time, and I turned the stamp around. Now I'm going to stamp the sentiment, which is So Sorry, in basic gray ink. I always stamp off on my scratch piece of paper before I clean my stamp with the Stampin' Scrub, just because it helps your Stampin' Scrub not get so dirty so quickly. Okay, now that I have that done, I'm going to work on the flower on the card. What I did is I embossed this in white embossing powder. So I'm going to take my Versamark ink, it's a watermark ink, and before I stamp my Versamark, sometimes I forget this step, but it's an important step. This is an embossing buddy, and it's basically a little pillow of powder, and it will prepare your cardstock so that your cardstock doesn't have any static or oils from your fingers where the embossing powder might stick. So I'm going to stamp the flower 3 times, and this is because I have 3 layers on this flower. So I have a top layer, a middle layer, and a bottom layer. Now I'm ready to pour on the white embossing powder. I'm just going to pour it over the cardstock. I'll speed up this video in places where I'm not speaking so that you don't have to wait. And sometimes I notice that I didn't get the powder in a certain spot, so then I'll pick up the powder again and pour it off again. That looks like a pretty good coverage. Now I'm going to heat this with my heat tool, and I'll speed this part up. Now that we have our flowers embossed, this Secret Garden stamp set actually comes in a bundle. So you can, if you buy the bundle, you get the stamp set and the framelits. And that is in the Stampin' Up! Occasions catalog. So this is the framelits die that matches this flower. I'm going to take my Big Shot and lay this down. You can use a piece of washi tape to hold down your framelits die. But for now, I will just for the sake of demonstrating, I'll just try to run this through quickly. So now we have our flower cut out with the framelits die. And we don't need to do that with these because I actually used my paper snips to cut the middle part out of this flower and the very center part out of this flower. So I've already done that ahead of time. And what I'm going to do before I adhere my flowers to the card is I'm going to make this little border on the side. I'm going to use this ribbon border punch. So I'm going to adhere this onto the back of my very vanilla cardstock. And how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to take this. This is just a piece of non-stick paper, so my adhesive won't stick to it. And you can use this kind of paper. Is the same kind that your dimensionals come on, and also some of the stamp sets, the clear mount stamp sets. So I'm just going to adhere this just so you can only see half of it. So it's just peeking out from behind the card. Okay, and then I'm going to trim the end. Now I'm going to use my corner rounder punch just to cut the corners. And I'm just going to cut 2 corners off of this piece. Now I'm going to apply this piece with Stampin' Dimensionals. Before I put my Stampin' Dimensionals on this piece, I really should have adhered the flowers. What I did on my flowers is I used, this is rose red cardstock, and so I'm going to use a rose red marker, and I'm just going to color in just the small areas, kind of so that it looks like it's shading. Okay, now I'm going to start adhering my flowers to the card. The bottom piece I'm going to adhere just with tape runner. And then the middle piece, the middle layer, I'm just going to put a dimensional on that. And I want to line it up on the card on the bottom layer so that it matches that bottom layer. And then for the small piece, I'm just going to cut off a smaller piece of a dimensional. For the very top piece here, what I did is I used Dazzling Diamonds, and you can use the two-way glue pen just to dab on some little dots of glue. And of course I should have done this before I mounted my top layer. Thanks for watching.